All right, cool. We're live. Hello, everyone. So today I have a really interesting guest. Her name's Karma. She goes by a bunch of different names online. You've probably seen her on Twitter. She talks a lot about like the alt-right and stuff like that. And I wanted to kind of get her perspective on things and get a little bit more information from her. So, do you want to like introduce yourself and talk about like your online presence and what you like to do?
Hi, I'm Karma, known currently as Adderfod Bitch before I get suspended next. Um, Most of what I do is I yell at neo-Nazis online. I, kind of shitpost, and, that's most of what my presence is online. And basically, how I've managed to kind of gained some sort of traction is that um, like over the past couple of years, I've basically been lurking and infiltrating a bunch of neo-Nazi groups. And late last September, I exposed several different neo-Nazis, including one of Richard Spencer's security guards, who was a member of the National Guard, and he was expelled from his college because of a rape accusation. And this was also the guy who created the white Sharia rape gang meme.
Mm.
So if that brings any sort of perspective, there it is. So it, yeah, that's kind of what I do. I didn't phrase that too well. I'm much better at like written communication than like speaking. That's
Yeah.
why
No,
I've
I
been
think
kind of like nervous to do streams and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I think you got the point across, and I think that
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing, like the stuff that you did. So what made you want to attempt to infiltrate these groups? Um,
So at a time after I was homeless, with all that kind of happened to me, I had this really dark, sort of desensitized view of the world. And, I liked the whole edgy meme culture. I laughed at all of, like the edgy memes. I thought they were funny, but once I realized that they stopped being memes, I basically felt like I had to do something. So for a time, I tried debating these guys, and eventually, once I realized I wasn't really going to get my point across, no matter how much proof I showed them, I basically up and decided to infiltrate them. I mean, like the alt right may talk a big game about hating women and stuff like that, but I mean, if you look at any sort of their drama, most of their drama involves like some kind of girl, they're desperate for a girlfriend, you kind of um I don't know, maybe if any of you watching this are considering some kind of infiltration, honeypotting, whatever, um they don't don't fall for their bluff on the whole we hate women thing. They definitely hate women, but not enough to turn down like, any attention they kind of get from women, if that makes any sense.
yeah, I'm sure that they're desperate for attention from women because it's not like women are flocking to be with these people. They're social outcasts and weirdos, and a lot of them are young and don't have a lot of money. They're just kind of and they all get doxxed or they get publicly outed and then they're pariahs. So like
Yeah,
any
and
Mhm.
like you mentioned the whole like, young guys with not a lot of money. It's the whole like disaffected white boy thing.
Yeah.
And, these very like I mean, these people that don't have to fear financial instability like Jared Taylor, Richard
Mhm.
Spencer,
Yeah.
they're preying on these people not only for money, but they're also feeding them a horrible, violent ideology, and they're also setting them up to get screwed. I mean, like, not
Yeah.
trying to say that these guys are innocent, but that's essentially the model of and like the dynamic of what's happening, and it kind
Yeah.
of sucks. It it
Yeah.
it, it kind of sucks.
Did you ever see that movie? what was it called? American History X. You ever see that?
I've heard about it, but I don't believe I've seen it.
Yeah, so it's a really good. I saw it randomly. It was made in the '90s, and like the main character, Edward Norton, sort of goes through that kind of a phase. Like at first, he's like the young skinhead guy who goes around beating up people. Then he goes to jail, and then like his mentor is like a guy, who's like the puppet master. And then when he gets out and he's talking to the guy again, his mentor, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure you don't want to do that anymore. Go around beating up people and shit. We'll have you do something else." In the end, his character changes and he doesn't want to be a Nazi anymore. But I mean, they definitely, yeah, they use those people as foot soldiers, and they just kind of stand back and let them take all the actual harm.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of what, the American military does to, the people who serve in it. They do
Yeah.
the grunt work and then they get screwed over, end up homeless, and
Hmm.
whatnot. And, that's kind of the same dynamic that happens with these alt-right people. And it really kind of sucks. Um,
Yeah.
if there was an easier, if it was like easier to debate a lot of these radicalized, you know, young men that kind of have like this desperation to like belong in some kind of like group, the alt right probably wouldn't happen. The whole reason the alt right is a big thing is because there's like, I mean, part of it is like a lack of social acceptance that drives people like to the fringes,
Yeah.
looking for some kind of validation or whatnot.
Yeah, they feel I can, like there's a lot of people that they feel like they don't have a place or they don't have some type of group that can sort of they can call their own that gives them a purpose. And they fill that in with, like these alt-right people. Like they prey on them. And I saw there was this one guy, he talks about like how they also prey on people that have mental health issues too.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. I
Yeah.
would not doubt it. Um, I
So
mean, look
they
at
like sell like self-help for people who have those type of issues, and then they like in the back door they give them this, white nationalist propaganda.
yeah, yeah. I'm kind of glad you mentioned that because you know I'm I'm not going to say that like alt-lighters are like necessarily like full-blown neo-Nazis, but it's kind of like you have like the whole self-help thing, which a lot of it is
Mhm.
like an alt-light game.
Yeah, like the
The
Jordan
Sunday
Peterson stuff,
Kids, the
right?
Jordan Petersons,
Yeah.
but there are also like white nationalists lurking around that sort of area too, and they sell their own materials and whatnot. So the alt-light's natural kind of whether they want it or not, association with white nationalists that does draw, some people in from the alt-right to the alt-right.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. Totally. I've seen a bunch of people that have gone from like Jordan Peterson to, like basically fascists in one way
yeah,
or another.
yeah,
The like Faith Gouldy called Jordan Peterson a prophet, like literally a prophet. So yeah, a lot of these people like his stuff, and or others like him. But then they like the harder drugs too, if, as it were.
yeah, and I from what I've observed, and I could be wrong, but this is my best guess. I think a lot of what really would get someone to agree with the alt-right in the first place is that they use humor.
Hmm.
They use humor, they make light of some of these really deep and dark issues and topics, and it just kind of desensitizes the minds of kind of these center right wing, kids. And yeah, that's
I think a lot
That's
of
kind of what I've
people,
noticed.
yeah, I think a lot of people, like the number of people who get taken in by different conspiracy theories is pretty high, I think. Like, just, just see how successful Alex Jones is. Like
Oh
the
yeah,
number of people who buy into what he says, the gay frogs and all that kind of shit. So, selling them on these alt-right things are, it's almost the same thing, right? It's just another conspiracy theory.
that
Um,
I'm glad you mentioned that because now I want to go on this tangent. So when I infiltrated one of the local groups, naturally they set me up with, one of the great white Aryan males to date and hopefully eventually procreate with. I guess
mm,
that was kind of their idea.
yikes.
Um, yeah, yeah, it was a bit weird.
Yeah.
He talked about his past and basically the Alex Jones Mandela effect, reptilian kind of conspiracy theory past. And he also, okay, this guy wasn't an incel. Um, he was a member of the Air Force and he was actually married before, but like a lot of military guys, the military wives cheat on them.
Mm,
And I think this combination of like conspiracy and the whole infidelity that led to kind of a definitely
yeah.
more misogynistic point of view,
Yep.
that definitely led the alt-right to be more attractive, especially given that a lot of the alt-right does use misogyny to kind of lure young men in. I mean, look at
Yeah.
the Daily Stormer. The Daily
Mhm.
Stormer does talk about Jews, but the way they reel people in is that they talk about kind of the opinions that are a little more popular in the mainstream, like, oh, feminism is cancer, oh, the
Mhm.
transgenders are annoying and telling me what words to use, and just in a much edgier sense of humor sort of way that appeals to, like, kind of the disaffected teenager who kind of has a nihilistic look at the view and just doesn't really understand or care about the social implications of what he's his thoughts, opinions, who he supports has.
Yeah. I definitely feel I saw there was a video I saw where Lana Loktev was saying that Alex Jones is a gateway drug. And I kind of on a certain level think that that's kind of true because you know like the way that he's turned recently, like he used to be sort of against every political person. Now he's jumped on with Trump, and it's because like the Trump supporters are like Trump as a person, and like that type of mentality fits with Alex Jones, where it's like we're just going to create truth ourselves, and facts don't really matter. So we're just going to create a alternate reality for our supporters to believe in, and that alternate reality you can sell people all kinds of things, right? You can sell them on, you know, gay frogs, or the Jews run the world, or that everything's a witch hunt. So, and I've seen a lot of just like mainline conservatives, like even some of my friends who listen to Alex Jones. Like Alex Jones is one of their primary ways of getting information or news. And it's kind of crazy that people are using him as an actual news source because he just kind of fits into their narrative. But yeah, I mean, there's a huge crossover between them.
Well,
Huge.
it's the cult of the personality. I mean, we've seen it with Hitler, Mussolini, Trump, Alex Jones. These are all like, okay, I wouldn't Trump, for whatever reason, he is charismatic to, you know, let's just say rural white America, because I guess that's kind of the stereotype of like, well, I mean, it definitely is like, rural white America are probably his biggest fangirls and fanboys. What he says appeals to them, the with the whole like cult of the personality thing. I mean, that's how Hitler kind of succeeded. I mean,
Mhm.
he wasn't just a politician, he was a personality.
Yeah.
He It's kind of like, Putin's cult of a personality if you want to look at I'm not going to like compare Putin to Hitler, but um, the charisma and the kind of idolization towards a politician, I think that there's no politician alive today that is closer to how well Hitler did with that than Vladimir Putin.
Mm.
Because I mean, let's just say you don't know much about the guy and you decide to watch some Russian television videos. You're gonna think he's cool. You're gonna think
Yeah.
he's
You see him like
interesting,
wrestling and he's like doing taekwondo or whatever. Yeah.
machismo. Yeah, yeah. And that's what the that's what a lot of anti-establishment movements actually kind of run on, actually. I think it's less so in the left than the right, but there's definitely, cult of personality things within the left. I mean, you've got your Bernie bros, Corbyn bros, you've got this, people who like Stalin, you got people who like Lenin and all. Like, I mean, there's
Yeah.
definitely the whole
Like
cult of
tankies.
personality.
Yeah. Yeah. If you go on Tanky Twitter, you'll see some real interesting takes.
Here's my take. I I'm the grill guy of the left. I've said this a few times on Twitter. I'm the grill guy of the left. I don't really care about the whole tanky versus anarchist skirmish. I just don't want to be in a gas chamber within the next 10 years.
Mm.
So, I mean, I'm not really going to comment on what the tankies are doing or what the anarchists are doing. Let them have their fun. I mean, if
Yeah.
something gets out of line, I might say something, but
But
I
you don't want
I
either one
kind
to
of
gulag you, right?
know.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah, but yeah, you're totally right. Like the cult of personality is something that people really gravitate towards in
yeah.
all types of ideologies because it's easy to like have this external figure that you uphold and sort of base your ideology around, and any false step against the ruler gets you expelled.
Well, okay,
And yeah.
I was actually unfair just talking about the cult of the personality within the far left and far right because back in yay olden high school days, I must confess, I was a centrist. I was an
Okay.
anti-feminist centrist. And do you know who my favorite anti-feminist tries to make herself look like a centrist was? I want you to guess.
I'm just thinking of like Barry Weiss,
Christina Hoff Summers.
Christina Hassan. Yeah.
I I was that dumb white
Yeah, but
girl
I
who
feel like she's
actually
gotten
listened.
worse. Like I feel like she
She
was
showed up
good
on
for
Red
a
Ice.
while.
We went onto a Red Ice podcast, and that was when I officially canceled her. I
Well,
was just like, "Lady,
she
we're done."
she
I
tried to make it seem like she didn't know what she was doing, but
Oh,
like,
she had to have
come on,
known.
come on.
She's a smart woman. She's a smart woman. I mean, look how successful she's done just having a YouTube channel. I mean,
Oh
she
yeah,
she knows how to pull in an audience.
there's a very easy way to sell like right wing bullshit. Like you're gonna get funding, like not
Yeah,
just get an audience, you'll get money to do that. You know?
Koch brothers.
Yeah, the Koch brothers will just like Dave Rubin. Like
Yeah.
blah blah. I'm a gay Jew libertarian. Like that's his whole thing.
Well, yeah, let's talk about Richard Spencer. You know of Regnery Publishing Company, right?
No, I'm not super familiar.
Okay, so Regnery Publishing Company um is one of the biggest conservative publishers in the United States. And the person who started National Policy Institute with Richard Spencer, William Regnery II.
Hmm.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
the mainstream conservatism is funding Richard Spencer.
Yeah, I mean Richard Spencer has been around like basically everyone. I mean, you
Oh
see him
yeah,
with Ron Paul, You see him with other mainstream conservatives, like I think there's
I
even
think
pictures of
Laura
him with the
Bush.
Bush. Yeah, with the
Yeah,
Bushes. Yeah,
yeah,
totally. And but that's just the way Republican politics is. It's like you're in a room with a bunch of rich white people, and then it's like, oh shit, by the way, that guy is one of the biggest neo Nazis. And it's like, oh well, I didn't know. It's like, well, dude, one of the craziest and I think most true statements David Duke ever made was he said that his voting record when he was in office was like he was almost like 100% a Republican, like the way that they measured their voting record, that he was like one of the most highly conservative people who was elected in office. And it's like, well, and he also sponsored legislation that ended up like welfare reform kind of stuff. And it just tells you there's a huge overlap because they have the same kind of interests. And that's just a huge problem because, like, they're like, well, we want to get welfare reform and all these other things. And it's like, oh, but, the people who are backing it are white supremacists.
yeah,
And it's like, how do they divest that? They just really can't.
yeah, yeah. I've had some conversations about this with my conservative family members because I mean I'm white. Basically, all white people have like at least one conservative family member, and we've we've had some talks about this because I've been really concerned about the whole ethics of supporting a right wing that is so connected with fascism.
Yeah.
And well, essentially, what one of my conservative family members said, he was just like, it's unfair to judge, because I mean, he was ignorant to the issue at the time. It's unfair to judge an ignorant voter on that. But
Hmm.
if you know it's happening and you're not speaking out against it, that's a bad thing. And
Okay.
okay, this my uncle's definitely alt light.
Hmm.
Like he likes Steven Crowder.
Yeah.
He loves all those
Ben
guys.
Shapiro, people like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He isn't like white supremacist or anything.
Hmm.
He just kind of does the whole normie kind of tier
Yeah.
anti-feminism.
My guns and my taxes, stuff like that.
Exactly. And I mean, if he's willing to say, you know,
You got to push back, or it's your fault.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he's alt-right and he's saying that, so it's not like, he's kind of like a more traditional Romney conservative. Like, I think I go too easy on the conservatives sometimes. Um,
Yeah, I
I
don't
have
know.
conser-
To me, the
I
biggest problem is like I think they don't understand like how bad it is, and they think that people are crying wolf when in the end, it's really, really bad. Like this guy's really bad. And they think it's still just like a game of like like whoever wins, it's all kind of the same. It's like, no, they're a lot worse, and they have a far harder right agenda than they have in the past. It's not like the 1970s or 80s or something. Like
yeah,
the
yeah,
2018 Republican Party is people like Jeff Sessions, neo-Confederate type people who want to use the state to destroy people that they see as others. You know.
exactly. And you mentioned you know, some of your friends like getting their news from Alex Jones, and you know, the, I'm surprised I haven't seen him on Infowars yet because I'm sure if Alex Jones knew about him, like Alex Jones would be bringing him up and saying, "Get on the show, get on the show." I'm friends with a black guy who loves Alex Jones,
Mm.
loves him, and he doesn't have the same priorities as like the left and stuff. He's very devoutly religious, and essentially his mindset is that you know he's waiting for the end times.
Oh,
That's
okay.
kind of his
Yeah.
belief. He doesn't really. he doesn't really look at the like, oh, screw, poor people getting food stamps or whatever. He's more into the satanic elite,
Mm,
eventually
yeah,
will get so bad enough that Jesus will come down and
yeah.
like everything like that.
The like Bilderberg group stuff and like
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
other weird, Moloch worshiping stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've heard it all.
I mean, I
I
used to watch him like probably 2008 or 9. I just think it's very easy for people to get pulled into those kind of conspiracies because like they're very good at presenting like it's a narrative that plays into people's like worst I don't know. Humans are very receptive to these grand narratives, and when you paint this picture of like, oh, there's these people, who control everything, and they're controlling, the government, and because like our governments are not very responsive, they're very bureaucratic, and
mhm,
and they don't really do things that your average person would want, and so you like, oh yeah, that makes sense because the government is doing this war that I don't agree with and doesn't make sense to me, and therefore this person is painting this narrative that it's this other entity. That's the reason why they're doing it, and so it kind of connects. But then he sells all this other stuff on top of it, which becomes the problem. But yeah, I mean, it's just appealing to human. Like that's why we believe in like religion and other things, like same type of stuff.
yeah, and I think to I think to understand kind of the normie conservative, you have to understand their motivations as to
Mm.
why they are more on the conservative side. Um, my friend, he has different motivations for being an Alex Jones fan than, Billy Bob Joe with the Confederate flag probably has,
Yeah.
or, you know,
Yeah.
supporting Alex Jones. I'm like I said, I'm probably way too easy on conservatives, but this is just something that I've kind of observed through my own sort of lens. Like, I mean, it's like I said, I'm kind of the grill guy. I want to basically get along with people because I think when you can have a decent conversation with conservatives, the free marketplace of ideas or whatnot, you can at least get some of your ideas across. Um, but that also has its limits. You like most neo Nazis aren't going to listen to debate.
Yeah.
They're
No.
they're just they're just not.
No.
Um,
They need to be
and
de-radicalized and re-educated.
yeah, yeah, and they, I'm trying to find a way to phrase this.
Yeah. Without full on
Basically,
saying
the
they need
left
re-education
does
camps.
need to be a little. There definitely needs to be like more friendliness among the left, and I know I'm probably going to get comments like, "Don't tell marginalized groups how to
Yeah.
feel." I'm not going to ask, someone who's marginalized to go up to someone from like the right. I'm not going to ask a Muslim to go up to Mike Cernovich and basically explain why she has the right to be in the United States. I
Right. Yeah.
This is mostly a call for like more privileged, white, affluent, middle class, leftist types.
Yeah.
If
The
you
allies have to
want the
do the hard
conversation
work.
to happen,
Mhm.
you know, you need to initiate it. You can't expect people who are being, in a way, targeted by someone to really kind of
Mhm. I think we
engage with
do
that.
need to have. I think the main problem is like the left is bad at communicating a lot of its ideas in a way that people understand easily. The right, it's very simple stuff, right? Immigrants bad because they kill you, or they take your job, or they have a different culture. Taxes are bad
It's
because they take your
it's
money.
fear. It's fear.
Yeah,
And
fear.
the left hasn't been able to get the same kind of fear um in their stuff that the right wing has.
Yeah,
Um
yeah, yeah, for sure.
and we have plenty of material. to like be scared about. Like, hey, global warming is actually terrifying. I mean, I'm actually looking outside my window right now, and it's a little more clear than it was this morning, but the smoke was so thick from the wildfires that I could barely see past, like, few
Yeah.
trees and whatnot. So, and also, like, where I live, it's by the water, and we've already had like a couple incidences of the tide passing, like, like flooding into the city. Like, it's
Mm.
actually, it's real. It's real. The
Yeah, it's
whole
coming.
global warming thing.
It's it's coming, and a lot of people don't understand like how destructive it's going to be, and it's going to have dramatic changes. And I think the problem with climate change is like there's a lot of people who are invested in. So if you're a conservative and you sort of take in climate change, the problem is it undermines a lot of the core assumptions that you have ideologically. So it undermines that capitalism is always good and it leads to positive outcomes. It's an example where it's leading to a negative outcome, and secondarily it's an outcome where there needs to be some kind of third party intervention, probably by governments. And so that's a problem too, because now they have to admit, oh yeah, well, this problem was created by capitalism and it needs to be resolved by the government. That totally undermines their ideology. And
Well,
then
something
there's
that's
also,
actually fascinating is that
yeah.
in the Book of Revelations, in a way, it does predict global warming. I'm going to I'm going to find the passage. Give me a moment. I know it's there, but it essentially alludes to global warming, and I'm surprised that more kind of left-wing progressive, like pastors, priests, whatever, haven't
Mhm.
really spoken about it.
Well, but would that be a good thing though? Would that mean like the world is ending, therefore, yay, keep going? Or
Not necessarily, because I think, like, with the Bible, it does kind of call for, like, stewardship of like the environment, to an extent, like stewardship to your fellow man and whatnot. And you know, I wouldn't say that Jesus was a socialist. Like, I mean, he was a monarchist, a benevolent monarchist, but
Mhm.
still a monarchist. But he
Well,
wasn't a capitalist either.
he was against the money changers, that's for sure, and
Yeah, yeah.
other rich, and also like it's hard for rich people to get into heaven. What does that tell you?
Pardon?
It's hard for there's a verse about how it's very hard for rich people to get into heaven.
I don't remember that verse.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like I think Jesus says it, or some holy person says that it's easy it's easier for like a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich person to get into heaven. Like I think that's basically the quote.
Okay, I'll
Yeah,
definitely look that up later.
yeah. I mean, the Bible does not really like it doesn't really it's not really in favor of capitalism, like in the way that
No,
we see it now. No, no, that
it's
yeah,
more like a benevolent kind of monarchism. I mean, it's not socialism, but
something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so just to sort of get back on the alt-right subject, I guess.
Yeah, sorry, we're going into
No,
like theology and how
yeah,
it ties into ecosystem.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think that was a good discussion about, like why these people have these ideologies.
Yeah.
So who are like some of the like I think you would say most interesting and bizarre and crazy alt-right figures that are prominent out there right now?
I think I think the ones who have captivated their audience the most are Daily Stormer. Definitely the Daily Stormer. I think that Andrew Anglin has had a bigger influence on kind of the alt-right culture than Richard Spencer has.
Mm,
I honestly believe that. Because Richard Spencer, he's boring. He's boring. Like,
yeah.
let's be honest. Andrew Anglin's just crazy.
Mhm. Yeah, and Richard is like he's a preppy white guy. Like
Yeah,
he's just like Tucker Carlson. They're basically the same person. Some people can't really connect with that. Like it's like, well, like a lot of people aspire to be him, but like none of them ever will.
yeah.
But
But
at a
it's just
certain
like with
point,
Andrew Anglin, he's
yeah,
kind of, you know, he's more in league with like, his audience. You know,
yeah,
have you read Luke O'Brien's article about Andrew Anglin? He wrote a really good article for The Atlantic, and it kind of talked about Andrew Anglin's past, and he was always kind of a weird, kind of outsider guy, um, and that naturally, I guess, took him over to the far right, and with him being on like this outsider status, he definitely has that more. He doesn't like, okay, I'm not trying to say that everyone who likes dark humor is like, some kind of
yeah,
weirdo, but I mean, the Daily Stormer takes it a step further. I
hmm
mean, looking at what they've done to Tanya Gersh and other people like that with their harassment campaigns and like, threatening to march in cities screaming like, gas the K's, race war now.
yeah, crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the whole incel thing. Like, I guess outsiders in like the right that like, connect to like these really fringe movements, they tend to have this darker sense of humor. Like,
Yeah, I was actually
I
talking to
wouldn't,
someone who's like on the left now, and she started as a right winger because she was like, she just didn't like that everyone around her was like kind of liberal or leftist. And so to be anti-establishment, she made like, dank Hitler memes and shit like that, and was shit posting right wing stuff, but later kind of grew out of it. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely people who that's their appeal is the edgy far right wing stuff to piss people off.
yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to say about like kind of I call them the meme teens. Like, the people that just kind of post the edgy memes to piss people off. Don't go after them.
Mm.
Like, like engage with them in debate. Ignore them if you must, but don't treat them the same as an active fascist. Like, I mean, the ones I doxed. I only went after
Yeah,
the active ones.
yeah,
I didn't go after the meme teens because I knew that a lot of people in the alt right, like they really they know that like the whole ethno state isn't going to happen, nor
mhm.
would they really care if it did or didn't. They just want to piss people off because pissing people off is kind of fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, like anonymously pissing people off. I mean, it's just like, ooh, one tweet can
Mhm.
bring in this storm of rage and anger, and no one will even know who I am, and it's
And
fun.
I mean, the president is the chief troll of all these people. Like, so there's an appeal. There's an appeal. Like people across the board like someone who just like unapologetically pisses people off
Yeah,
and doesn't care.
yeah. He
You know,
speaks his mind.
speaks his mind. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
he tells it like it is.
Yeah.
There's this comic. It's got a billboard of a wolf, and it, its campaign slogan is "I'm going to eat you," and the sheep are just like, at least he tells it like it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like the sheep
Yeah,
are surprised that the wolf who eats sheep party actually ate them.
yeah,
That kind of
yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
It's just like he tells it like it is,
yeah.
even though what he's saying and what he's planning to do could actually
It's horrific.
cause some serious harm. Yeah,
Totally
yeah.
horrific.
But I
So,
mean,
so here's a question for you. So, what's your favorite like alt-right person, either meltdown or like thing that was revealed about them that caused backlash? That was kind of funny.
Oh, oh boy, that's hard. That's
Yeah, right.
hard. There's so many. Ooh, jeez.
And I think
The
I have
ones that were
one. Yeah, go
funny.
ahead.
Okay, I think the funniest one that because I mean there's a lot of stuff revealed about like the alt-right that it's kind of like it's not funny, but you kind of have to laugh because of how hypocritical they are. But here's one that's actually funny and like, it's still hypocritical, like, in their action, but it's funny. Night of the Wrong Wives, it has been called, when Matthew Heimbach was caught was caught fucking his
Yeah,
step. No, no. Um,
like the literal cucking.
yeah, yeah. When Matthew Parrott got cucked by Matthew Heimbach and that
Yeah.
debacle unfolded, that was funny because I mean Matthew Heimbach, he is the trad worker party, trad orthodox. Um, and then it's just Night of the Wrong Wives. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
That is good.
that
That is
one
a good
was
one.
hysterical. That one was hysterical. Oh, what's here's here's another one that was kind of funny. Um, you know how sometimes the tweet that Richard Spencer made that says homosexuality is the last implicit sand of white identity. When that really started circulating, the reactions by the far right were hysterical.
Yeah, I
Like
bet.
that. Have you heard of someone named Common Filth?
No, I'm not familiar.
So he's reactionary. He really isn't alt right or anything. He's just very traditionalist, reactionary.
Hmm.
Um, he basically um called out the alt right on like their degeneracy and stuff. And it's kind of it. I don't think his Twitter is active anymore, but you just look at his Twitter and there'd be like a new thing, like, oh, Richard Spencer supports ethical child porn. Richard Spencer has been accused of grooming, underage boys. It
Yeah,
it just goes on.
yeah.
This isn't like, a popular alt-right figure, but I actually tweeted about this recently.
Hmm.
Um, I think one of the funniest alt-righters was this guy who, I mean, he had his face out there. It was a picture of him doing a Nazi salute. He was a total Richard Spencer fanboy. I mean, he was just like purely ideological. He wasn't even like chaos alt writer. Like he was completely serious in like supporting
Hmm.
Richard Spencer. He had a fetish for Avril Lavigne wearing binkies.
What?
Don't
What the
okay.
fuck?
Yeah, I know.
What? What?
I know. I know.
What? So weird.
Oh, another funny thing. Were Beards and Beardley, Prince Hubris, Paul Town, and that kind of crew, the Weekly Sweat guys.
Um, Not totally, but I.
They call Irony Bros. People kind of call them. When they revealed that Greg Conti got cucked by Richard Spencer, that was pretty funny. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's great.
Um,
I mean, they started that meme and then it backfired on them.
oh wait, I wasn't there for the backfire. What happened?
Well, the people like they say you're a cuck and then they get cucked. So then,
Oh yeah, okay. Now
you
I
know,
I gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, if you call everyone else a cuck and then you get cucked, you're like it's like exponentially
Oh
hitting
yeah.
you.
Oh yeah. Um, and that kind of happens to the far right a lot. I mean, a lot of them are victims of being cucked. Like, I mean, talk like looking back at the guy that it was kind of like match made with, like by the Nazi group that he infiltrated. He was cucked by his wife. Um, like a lot of these guys are they're incels. They've been cucked. Um, yeah, they just haven't had too much luck with women. And, not saying it justifies it or anything, but it's kind of rich that they're calling other people cucks and, beta males when they have to rely on like pickup artists
Yeah,
to
yeah, just total
get their
disaster.
stuff done. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I don't know if are you familiar with was it Tara McCarthy?
Yes,
She's one of my
yes.
favorites. She has a real because she's like really dumb.
Yeah,
She's
did you see
really
her
dumb.
rant about
Really dumb.
antinatalism?
Oh
Um,
yeah, like I remember I found her before she became a fascist. Like
oh damn.
yeah, well actually, I think I saw something that she did that was like maybe anti-immigrant or something, and I had a debate with her about it. And this was like right before she went alt right. At the time she was talking about all these other weird stuff. She goes from like thing to thing, like but yeah, she's super dumb and like there's a bunch of videos that she's done that I don't know if anyone's seen them though. She did one with her sister, which was really interesting. There's a point, and because her sister's a normal human being, right? Um, so there's a point in the video where she says to her sister, so she says like, well, because they're having a discussion about like demographic changes in countries and black people, blah blah blah. And then she asks her sister like, would you feel comfortable if you were in a dark alley and you saw four black guys coming at you? And her sister literally looks at her with the look on her face like, holy fuck, is my sister a racist crazy woman? It's the funniest. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like the look on her sister's face is like, oh fuck,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. You
No, oh,
asked
okay. Well,
about
let me give you another one about Tara
okay.
McCarthy. I don't know if you. So Tara McCarthy at one point decided to try to be a pimp, an alt right pimp. I'm not joking. I don't know if you've seen this.
I think I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, she was like, oh hey, here's this person, and her like she's like 18 and wants to have a family, and she's like 20% Native American, which sucks, but hey, what are you gonna do?
Well, she was actually exposed for having an affair with someone. This
Oh
was
really?
back before
Oh,
her this was way back before her alt-right days, but
uh,
someone posted a picture of her like she was hugging this guy and this
yeah.
guy claimed that the guy she was hugging on was his boss, and she had an affair with this guy, and whenever the guy's wife came home, she'd hide in his Lamborghini.
Oh my god.
That was hilarious. I don't know how true that is, but i I wouldn't be shocked if it was true.
I
I
wouldn't
wouldn't
either.
be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Like
Oh,
she,
also the Lauren
yeah,
Southern thing when
yeah.
her previous brown boyfriends
Uh huh.
were brought up by Callie. Um, that was funny.
That was
That
amazing.
that was
That
hilarious.
was amazing. I love that. That would just made me laugh so hard. And
Well,
her
did you?
defense was like, "Well, he was a Christian Trump supporter."
I
You're like, "I don't give a
know.
fuck. He's black. He's Indian." That was great.
Well, did you see the Reddit post about what someone claimed as to why Lauren Southern became alt right in the first place?
No, I don't think I saw that.
So there's this Reddit post out there that Lauren Southern. She was dating this Arab guy, and she was
Uh,
still kind of a normie libertarian at the
mhm,
time,
mhm,
and he dumped her for an Arab girl, and like this Arab guy, he was like studying to become a doctor or something. So
mhm,
I mean, Lauren was probably going for the MRS degree, and she basically just it changed her. It
mhm.
was the origin story of
Yeah,
Lauren Southern.
it's like the Batman, the Bruce Wayne moment,
Yeah, yeah,
crying with the dead family.
yeah. Oof.
Yeah, I mean, would you agree that she's like kind of alt right now?
Oh, she definitely is.
Yeah.
She actually claimed to be alt-right in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
the tweet's still up. The tweet's still up. I think I retweeted it at some point, but
Mhm.
I'll I mean, maybe people will be looking at my Twitter and asking, "Where's the proof for all these claims you're making?" And then I'm going to have to like go through my folders, like trying to find everything and
Yeah.
be like, "Here this is. Here's this. Here's this."
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
always hate that. Like that's a diversionary tactic. Like, oh, give me proof, give me proof, give me proof. It's like,
yeah, yeah.
you know,
Well, I do that sometimes to like the far right when they make crazy claims,
yeah, it's good to do it
or
to
just
them for
debunk
sure.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good to do it to them for sure. So are you familiar with this person, Sinead McCarthy? Have you ever heard of her?
She's insane.
She's totally insane, but she's probably my favorite, honestly. Like she is so like she's she's like the end. It's almost like the logical conclusion of all this insanity. It's like all conspiracies are good, and I remember she had a discussion with someone, and it was like, yeah, like I totally understand why you believe in the flat Earth because everyone really kind of pushes back on you when you like go that far. Like they won't let you say that, but they'll let you say other crazy shit. And so it's like in her mind, because people believe that flat Earth is wrong, it has to be true, and maybe that's true of a whole bunch of the other things that they believe. But yeah,
I
I like
once
her.
watched a video of her claiming that the reason like cannibalism exists in the world is because of the Jews.
Oh my
But
god, yeah.
here's one thing that happened that's actually kind of dark that I want to get into. So, do you know Christian Picciolini? He
Yeah.
was a white nationalist and founded Life After Hate.
Hmm. Hmm.
He was in a show called The Dark Web
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
it talked about a 17-year-old girl who,
Yeah,
kind of got
yeah,
sucked into all this alt-right stuff,
yeah. I
and she
totally
was
remember her. Yeah,
catfished.
I,
And
yeah.
Sinead McCarthy defended this guy who was catfishing a 17-year-old girl, and the girl Crusader Girl, that was her kind of internet name. She appeared on some of Sinead's podcasts.
Yeah, she did.
Um, that was just crazy.
Yeah,
That
it is insane.
that I mean, because something the far right likes to do is rant about pedophilia. Um, there's nothing wrong about hating like pedophilia, child molestation.
Mhm.
Like it's bad. It's bad. Basically, everyone
Yeah, I
should be
think we all
raped.
agree that pedophilia is totally wrong and bad and evil.
Yeah, but the far right uses it in a smearing sort of way.
Yeah,
Like,
Mike Cernovich.
Patrick Little, he's carrying a sign around saying, "Oh, the Jews rape kids," blah 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 blah
Mm,
blah. Um, I've kind of noticed this within all the political parties. I'm not going to lie. Um, when there's like an instance of pedophilia with like a member of such party or the member of an opposite party, there's like, a political opportunity. Um,
mm.
like looking at the whole Pizzagate thing, that was that was politicized. That was downright politicized. I mean, it, if I don't believe that the whole Pizzagate thing would have taken off with the right if it was the Trump campaign getting involved in that.
Yeah,
Because,
like if they claim that Trump like had a pizza parlor with little kids, right?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Trump was accused of rape by a girl who was 13 at the time, and the right just basically smeared her.
Yeah.
They just smeared that poor girl. But then they'll believe in Pizzagate. I
Yeah.
think, and you know, I've seen basically every other political group kind of do this too. Um, and it's not just with pedophilia, but it's like different abusive kind of behaviors. I
Like Al
mean,
Franken, right? That's a good
yeah,
example. Like people
yeah.
defended him. Hmm.
Who's that Twitter guy who was really popular for a while, but then his wife came out and, you know, talked about how he was abusive and, you know, there were like police records and everything, but like nothing really happened to like his popularity or anything. Like he just left Twitter for a while,
Mhm.
came back after a couple of months, and then got 12,000 followers again.
Well, I'm not sure.
I'm
Uh,
I have a post about it
okay.
because
Yeah.
something I know a lot of people are probably going to say it's not our responsibility to do damage control from what like the far right says, but I think when it comes to like the left, an there needs to be a very loud and vocal response to abusive behavior,
Mm.
enough that, you know, even like a normie centrist could be like, oh, they don't defend this. Here's XYZ examples. I think that because I mean the alt right, um, they've they've been able to succeed in their propaganda against the left because the left fighting back isn't as well. I mean, like, okay, the left's more divided than the right now, and
Mhm.
so you know you don't have that collective sort of fighting back
Yeah.
that you would with like the right going after like you know a left wing abuser or something like that.
Yeah.
There needs to be that kind of collective like grab within the left, not only towards the far right and the right, but with ourselves when there's like a predatory member in our group. Um, like not not just for like you know the whole optics, you know, damage control with like, you know, because the far right's going to like close in with that, but also for the sake of victims. I mean,
Yeah.
like Lana Del Raytheon. I don't know what's happened with them. I don't know. I think that was their whole pronoun. Like I know the whole racism dog thing is Lana Del Raytheon turned out to be a meme,
Mm.
but I mean, where are they now? I mean,
Who knows?
yeah, yeah,
Who knows?
that's kind of scary. That's kind of
A lot of
scary. And
a lot of people they meet violent ends, you know. Like
yeah,
it ends very, very violently or, you know, some other or suicide or something, you know. It tends to be bad, unfortunately.
yeah, it's I don't know. It
Can I say another like funny Sinead McCarthy story?
yes,
Yeah.
let's lighten up the mood a little bit.
So she was another one with a past that was like normal, therefore it was bad for her when she became alt right. So I guess at some point she was like trying to be a singer. And so, you know, when you're in the music industry, you're going to be around a lot of different people. And so there was a bunch of pictures of her with like a black guy, basically. And then everyone just like totally dogpiled on her because there's a picture of her and a black guy. Like,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Like these alt right guys are so territorial.
yeah,
I mean,
they
okay, did
are.
you see when Roosh tweeted out that libelous Ralph Retort article about me, and he also added a picture of a non-white friend of mine and I to like the post.
Oh my
Um,
God,
like okay,
no.
Roosh isn't even white, but you know, it's like he's definitely
I
like you know
know.
palling around
No,
with
but
the
he
white guys.
openly says that he's basically like a far right and he defends far right positions.
Oh yeah, yeah. He
Yeah,
pals around with them. Definitely. I
yeah,
mean, he believes what they believe, but it's just like, I mean, he he wouldn't probably wouldn't be accepted in Richard Spencer's ethno state. I mean,
yeah.
so
Probably
I
not, but
generally call that like palling around. Kind of with like the whole edgy Sphinx braving ruin thing. Um,
yep.
he's palling around too. Um, I use that terminology because if you call like a brown person a Nazi, you're gonna get the response, how can a brown person be a Nazi?
Very very easily. Like many of these people are, you know. I don't. Who
Oh, have
knows
you seen
why?
the Brittany Venti poll meetup? It was
No.
from like early 2017. You go Google Brittany Venti poll meetup, and it's like, I mean, poll turned out to be more diverse than the Huffington Post. Um, like those are probably more of like the meme teens.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
they just
yep,
want to post edgy memes. But
yeah.
the
Hmm.
ones who actually like really kind of push propaganda, that's I don't get it. I don't get it. I
Yeah,
probably will never be able to wrap my head around that. So I'll I'll leave it to people of color to figure that out. Like what's your opinion on people of color and Jews who like kind of pal around with the alt-right?
oh, they're like the worst. Like they are the absolute worst. And it's nonsensical too because they're like under. It's not like they, if things succeeded that they would be welcome. They would be then exterminated. Like I always say, you're the second. You're on the second, like train to Auschwitz. We're on the first. Like it doesn't make sense, and it's
Yeah.
hard too because like you can't just like be. It's like people like Candace Owens, like they say all these things and they get away with it. Like she'll say all the time, "Oh, you need to get off the Democrat plantation." And it's like if someone white said that, like they would get a lot of blowback, but she can say it because she's black. And she also people like that deflect attacks and they say, "Well, why are you saying that it's wrong for me to think this way? Because like, do you think all X people have to think the same way?" So it's really like they use their identity as a shield to present these bad ideas. I think that people just need to go after them and say your ideas are bad, and they undermine the people that are like you, which is why most people that are like you do not represent these ideas, they don't connect with them, and you have to say you're using your identity as a shield in a way that you attack other people for doing as well, and we're not buying it. So f off, you are an evil person. That's what I would do. They should be
Alrighty.
Yeah, they should be gone after. But yeah, it's probably easier for someone like me to go after like a right wing black person than it is for someone who's white because again they're going to use their identity as a shield, like that's their selling point.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing too is like a lot of these people they're there like the Candace Owens is there for white people, right? Like that's her major purpose is so then they'll a lot of people are like, oh well, like see, Candace Owens is a black person who agrees with me, so I'm not racist, and there's black
The
people.
black friend. The
Yeah,
black friend.
yeah, she's the
Yeah.
black friend, and that's the whole purpose of the black friend. The black friend isn't there to get more black people to be conservative. The black friend is there to say for white people, see, I have a black friend, therefore, I'm inclusive in my ideology. When really, it like the Republican Party is a white identity party. Like I think after 2016, it's just blatantly obvious. That's what they are, and that's what they're selling to people.
Yeah. And like Candace Owens, I mean, she had a pretty like far left sort of past. And, a lot of conservatives are just like, oh, she's a fake conservative. But I mean, she still gets like enough press because, the whole like black friend complex or
Yeah.
whatnot. Yeah.
I mean, that's her whole job. Her whole job is to be the black conservative and get as much attention as possible. Like she gets paid to do that. She gets paid to do that. And she has no real ideology. there's one of my videos, like the video that has the most views of mine. Um, just to go on a like slight side tangent, I'll try to resolve quickly. Basically, Dave Rubin came to UC Berkeley with some libertarian people for some reason, because that's basically what he gets paid to do now. I went to that event because I wanted to call him out, basically. So I came to the event. I asked him a question. Like I basically asked him like, why do you keep having all these like right wing people like Mike Cernovich and Stefan Molyneux on your show? Like, why don't you have actual liberal people? His response was, "Oh, well, I'm interviewing David Frum next week." So, yeah, he's a maniac. So so
Oh,
that so that went live on YouTube, and then it got published on his channel. And most of the people who commented on that video were talking about my question because basically no one had ever called him out like that before. And then this guy, Dave Rubin edited the video. He edited the Q&A out of the video and he never published it. He has never published it, and he never will. He
oh
never
my
will.
gosh,
Yeah,
that guy is
yeah,
just the
yeah. He's a rat
dishonest.
bastard, and he did it on purpose because I made him look very bad. And there's one thing Dave Rubin doesn't like is looking bad, which is hard because he's so dumb. He always looks bad. So the video, the other video,
He's not
that's
smart. He's just a puppet. I
yeah,
mean, no,
yeah.
he's not like dumb. He's just, he
He's
knew
a
where the
puppet.
money was. He's greedy.
Yeah, exactly. He's all about the money. Like when you
Yeah,
understand him, he's about money. He wants to make money. He wants to be well known. He wants to be famous. He wants to have a good career. And for a guy like him, that's kind of hard because he has no talent. Like if you see his stand up, he's done the same stand up for 25 years and it's always horrible. It was horrible in like the 90s. It's horrible now.
yeah. I
So
haven't I haven't watched any of his comedy.
it's bad. I mean, all he does is like, "Hey, are there any gay people here?" Blah blah blah. Like that's his
Oh
that's his
boy.
set. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Hey, are there any? So now he's updated to, hey, are there any libertarians here? How many libertarians do we have? Like
So
that's
basically, he's just a leather pantsuit away from Amy Schumer.
probably yeah. I think
Oh
that's
goodness. Oh
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. His comedy is horrible. So yeah. So the video on my channel is the second time I called him out. So then I called him out because not only did he, like lie about the first thing, but then, he won't even publish that part of the clip, and then he kind of said a bunch of bullshit. And Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens were there, so then I went after them too because the event was about immigration and building a wall, and they just were saying some insane bunch of lies, so many lies you can't even catch up with them. But
Charlie Kirk had
yeah,
shit coming out of his mouth and into his diaper.
Charlie Kirk is a cuck, by the way. Charlie Kirk. So at that event, so I asked him the question, and then me and my friend like went through the back to exit. Um, and then the way that I was going, Charlie Kirk was going too. And I was like, "Oh, hey, it's Charlie Kirk." And then this motherfucker, he wouldn't even look me in the eye. He would not even look me in the eye as he passed by and left.
Oof.
Total, total coward.
The Virgin Charlie Kirk versus
Yeah.
Chad Philosopher King.
And what's funny, so he had a very basic, college Republican girlfriend. And it was funny like she like looked at him and he's like looking away. It was great. Yeah, he's a total cuck. He's a total
I want to see these
pansy.
guys try to speak at Evergreen.
Uh
Imagine how that would end. Like, okay. I live like a couple miles away from Evergreen, and
yeah.
like not just like the far right or the right wing, but also the centrists like to hype the whole Brett Weinstein thing up. Like, oh, the Evergreen. Like, I don't attend Evergreen. I go to the community college because it's cheaper. It's cheaper. It's got what I need to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spend extra money to
College is
go.
expensive.
Yeah. Like, yeah, Evergreen is definitely like, much more like progressive and stuff, but it's not this politically correct, like dystopian
Mhm.
Stalinist thing that the centrists try to project. Most people are just stoned, tired, and trying to get through the day.
Yeah.
Like if you walk around the Evergreen campus, yeah, everyone's just stoned and tired. And that wasn't okay. That wasn't even the cool or most insane riot that's happened at Evergreen. Let me tell you about the time, this was about like 10 years ago, when someone legit flipped over a cop car.
Oh, that's pretty ballsy.
Yeah, see, Evergreen is like, okay, the reason that the whole Evergreen thing got famous is because it fit very well into, like, the SJW narrative.
Yeah.
Now, they weren't exactly in the right. Like,
And
it was a bad look. It was a
so
bad look.
was it only Weinstein, or was there someone else that got deplatformed too, or kicked out or whatever?
Um, like Weinstein and his wife have been kind of like, like very like far left people here, like they don't really want anything to do with them. And I kind of want to talk about like what really happened because
Yeah.
um some of the people I know are actually participated in that.
Mm.
And so yes, I mean there's like the whole video evidence, but let's talk about the whole context as to why this ever happened in the
Mhm.
first place.
Yeah, for sure.
So, two black students were targeted by campus police and racially profiled,
Mm.
and this was just one incident in many other incidents of racial profiling by the Evergreen campus police.
Hmm.
And people were starting to get really ticked about this.
Yeah,
And
understandably.
so a lot of the professors, they were just like, maybe in some kind of honor of this, we'll switch the day of absence to white people leave campus and people of color stay, because the tradition before was that people of color left campus to go to a place that the white students didn't know about, and they talked about like different issues that they faced like on and off campus, and just like different kind of issues in society in general. When, like, okay, no white student was forced off the campus. Like, I mean, most of the white students who are enrolled in Evergreen were still there. Like, they were still there going to school and whatnot. Um, Brett Weinstein, like, I mean, even though it was like a choice, he basically, he sent that email and said, you can't tell white people to get off campus.
Hmm.
And they didn't just, that was like the needle that broke the camel's back.
Mm.
That was just straw that broke the camel's back. Whatever. And all of this racial tension on campus that already was brewing, especially with the recent incident of, two black students getting racially profiled by police,
Mm-hmm.
people lost it.
Yeah.
People lost it. Um, like they weren't just pissed because about what Brett Weinstein said. If like okay, because Brett Weinstein, you know, like they wouldn't react to what Brett Weinstein said if there wasn't all of that backstory behind with all of this racial tension on campus.
Yeah.
Um, that wouldn't have happened. They probably would have just had like a protest and been done with it. It was it was the straw that broke the camel's back, and everyone just lost. I mean, they were pissed. They had a right to be pissed. Unfortunately, what they did has cost Evergreen so much. Like,
Mm.
I believe that I believe that admission is down 20%. I
Oh
read
wow.
in Yeah, it's bad. The way the international news, not just national news, but
Mhm.
international news has grabbed at this event and put it on everyone's like screens and whatnot. It has devastated Evergreen. It has definitely devastated Evergreen. And I mean, what they did, it it wasn't right. What Brett Weinstein did, it wasn't right. Um, but I mean, when you think in the context of college riots, and not just at Evergreen, but at other places, the damage that was done at Evergreen was minimal compared to some other college riots about like football and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. Or
Those,
just like even when they win, they destroy everything.
yeah, those football rioters never have their lives ruined. They don't get harassed. They don't get their faces posted all over national news. It's the
Hmm.
local news. Like maybe maybe in the next state over because like the narrative that the Evergreen incident presented to, I mean, not just anti SJWs, but to liberals who don't like, the left.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Basically, everyone took that and ran with it, and they're still stretching it. I mean, Mark Collette is still like
Yeah,
making
I
videos
bet.
about Evergreen State College, and
They're just milking it for because
they're
that's all they
milking it.
have. That's the one narrative that they have, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if honestly, if any of these people actually walked on an Evergreen campus, like they would be very like underwhelmed and bored. They'd just be like, where are the SJW
Yeah, I
rioters?
know.
I
Yeah.
just see dirty hippies around here."
Where are the people who are going to, mob me because I'm white?
Yeah, but here's a consequence of what happened. Here's a really negative consequence of what happened with the media publicizing of Evergreen. Adam Waffen actually came to Evergreen, and they posted posters everywhere. There was an Adam Waffen presence at Evergreen.
Oh, yikes. Oof.
Like, I considering that Adam Waffen has killed
Yeah, kill people.
like several people,
Hmm.
yeah, like
That's really
it's
bad.
drawn in deadly attention. I mean, there was someone who threatened to shoot up the school. I mean,
Yeah, I'm
guy was
sure.
all from all the way in New Jersey, but
Hmm.
I mean, people were forced to move their graduation all because someone didn't like those intolerant liberals, lefties,
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
It,
Hmm.
I just can't. I
Yeah.
mean, okay, if you want to understand why Evergreen's admissions being down is so devastating, um, Evergreen is one of the biggest economic things in this city.
Hmm.
Um, Olympia, we were devastated when Miller Lite bought our local brewery, which was like the biggest employer, like in like the city surrounding and Olympia. It's when Miller Lite bought it and basically killed most of the jobs in
Yeah.
town. We went into crisis. We have one of the worst per capita homelessness crises
Mm.
here because of that. So Evergreen is kind of our economic thing besides the state. If Evergreen's admissions are down 20%,
Wow. Yeah, that's
that's not
huge.
good news. That's not good
Yeah.
news.
Hmm.
It's, I mean, there's um different people estimate that in Olympia alone, there's almost 2,000 homeless people.
Mm.
Like
That's crazy.
the statistics that say 800, but given how those statistics are actually like calculated, done, and whatnot, it doesn't cover everyone. They just go around the shelters and whatnot, and the day centers and whatnot. But there's only about like 250 shelter beds in the city. Like that's how bad our homeless crisis is. So, I mean, people are losing their jobs already because of,
Mhm. Yeah,
you know,
because of what happened, the
yeah,
narrative around it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It is just it's horrifying because at the same time people losing their jobs, kind of the local city establishment, whatnot, wants to gentrify Olympia even more. Yes, they
Oh,
want to take an 82% white city and gentrify it even more. They want it to become like a new Seattle, a new Bellingham,
mm.
new Ballard or whatnot. It's going to
They
be
want it to be like
very,
Vermont.
yeah, yeah, they want to be like Vermont. Um, it's going to end badly because jobs are going down. I mean, Olympia still hasn't recovered since the brewery closed down. We have this huge homeless crisis, but you know, expensive condos are being built. Like
Mhm.
Olympia is going to get screwed.
Yeah.
We're going to get screwed so bad. And then also, hey, our oceans are flooding. The air
Yeah.
quality is getting worse. Yeah, it's
And just
I
imagine if all those things happen and then there's a recession in the next year or something, right?
oh
This
yeah, I've
could easily happen.
I've talked to a lot of like I was homeless once. I've talked to a lot of like
Mm,
homeless friends of mine about this, and they talk about like, nothing is really going to massively change for homelessness until there is like a huge recession where it ends up affecting more and more like
yeah.
middle class. Like that's what's going to end up happening, and I hate that. I
Yeah, it
I want
sucks.
to try and stop it. I know I can't. Um, I do what I can, but I know that it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not.
so one thing, you brought up what happened at Evergreen, and that kind of reminds me of what happened at UC Berkeley with Milo.
Oh
Was that
yeah.
was that last year? I forget. Whenever it happened. But time is moving so quickly.
Mhm.
Um, but what I always find interesting about that incident, and what I always bring up whenever I talk about it to someone, and I feel like this kind of plays into like the problems the left has of communicating their ideas. Before he went to Berkeley, so two things happened before then. So one was he went to like the University of Madison, and as a part of his little stick, he basically doxed a transgender student at the campus,
Ooh.
and that ruined her life. And she ended up like she sent like a very strong letter to the dean and then dropped out. I don't know if she ever went back to school. Probably didn't go back there. So she got doxxed. Her life gets ruined. Then when he's about to come to Berkeley, he says, "Oh, by the way, I want to dox a bunch of undocumented students." And he also doxed a bunch of other students that were on like the student council. He's like, "Oh, look at all these SJWs," and he doxed all of them. So he doxed a bunch of people, and he threatened to dox more people who could get deported. And so the response to all this doxing is, well, if the campus if the school isn't going to stop him from coming, Antifa will stop him from coming, basically, to protect people. And so I feel like whenever I bring up the fact that he did all this doxing and he ruined people's lives, people start to think about it differently. They don't really always take Antifa's side, but they think, oh yeah, this guy, he's a problem. He's not good. He doesn't have good intentions, right?
Mhm. Milo
And
has never had good intentions,
no,
and you'd
no,
have to be an idiot not to see it.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, but a
even
lot
like,
of people fell for it. I think
well, I
it's
mean, a
crazy.
lot of conservatives, they didn't really take Milo seriously. They just thought he was funny.
Yeah, he thought it was helpful for them and funny and gay
He
and
was
like,
the gay Jew that,
mhm,
ended up being quite linked with Richard Spencer
yeah,
and a pedophile apologist.
yeah, yeah,
But oh, he's a gay Jew who married a black man.
yeah.
I
He looks
mean,
black, man. He can't be racist. He
yeah,
can't be evil. No, sorry. He is super evil.
yeah, I hate his hair. I hate his hair. Like
Yeah.
his hair is just something else. Um, And also the way he called Trump daddy, that was just
Yeah, that was
creepy.
disgusting.
Like, I just
That
could
was
not.
vile. Vile. Ugh. No, dude. No. Yeah, he's super sketchy. Like he's done all kind like he bragged about like getting thousands of dollars to have sex with rich men, and people are like, wait, dude, that's not legal. Oh yeah, and then he started a fund for he started
The college, yeah,
the
the
white male college
working,
fund. Stole
yeah,
it all. He stole every dollar.
yeah,
Bunch of
that,
idiots. Bunch of idiots.
yeah, that actually made me sad. That actually made me sad. There are people. Well, no, it's just like, I mean,
I-
okay, they're idiots for donating to the thing. They're idiots for thinking that they'd ever get money from that guy. But I mean, his whole goal of like, helping like, working class, like, white guys who, they are genuinely disadvantaged, but they
yeah,
don't get a lot of the supports.
yeah, they're kind of left out.
Yeah, they are. They are, which is why I support free college for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't get why the right freaks out about the idea of free college for everyone, but also like
Well,
freaks out about the whole like affirmative action thing.
it would be a problem for them because then people would like get educated and become more liberal. That's a problem. So we can't really have that.
Well, I think there will always be like, educated right wingers. I mean, Richard
Hmm.
Spencer went to Duke. I
Yeah, he
mean, a
did.
lot of like these prominent right wingers, they are pretty well educated. Um, it's not as if an education is like, going to like shape your ideology. They'll claim like the universities are Marxist or whatever. I became, a left wing shithead because of my own life experiences.
Hmm.
The community college I go to isn't really political. I mean,
Oh, is it like a commuter school?
what?
Is it like a commuter school? Like people they drive in, they go to school, then they leave. No one really lives there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's, I mean, there's like some like social justice, like, oh, hey, we'll just have like some activists and stuff. But I mean, given that like it's community college, there is a lot more of like, the trades and stuff
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
are being done. So they're generally like within the trades, there isn't as much of an interest or like, a push towards like, the humanities, sociology, whatnot, that there would be at like, liberal arts
Yep.
kind of place like Evergreen. Um, what was I going on with this? Yeah, so it's right now I remember. Like a college education doesn't necessarily mean that you adhere to a political ideology. Like going to college won't magically make you a left winger. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to. I mean, I think a lot of like the right wingers who do go to college and are exposed to like a lot of like liberal stuff, they just don't want to hear it, especially now that there's now this narrative where it's like, oh, it's indoctrination, it's
Hmm.
indoctrination.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but I I don't get why people are so scared of like, sending their kids to college because they'll end up becoming blue-haired, obese Tumblr
Mhm.
feminazis or whatnot. Um, no,
Yeah. It's not
no,
true.
it's not true.
But yeah,
Like,
generally speaking, people that go to college tend to be more liberal. So,
yeah.
it's a numbers game, I think, for them. So, all right. Well, we should probably wrap things up. I don't want to take too much more of your time. Is there any like anything you're going to be doing going forward that people should look out for?
Um, there's definitely something, but I'm it's not the time to talk about it right now. Cliffhanger moment.
Yeah, yeah. On
There's
the next
definitely
episode
things
of
happening.
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, there's definitely things happening. I
Great. That's
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah. Well, thanks for inviting me on your thing. Sorry I was like kind of late getting on and all that. I
Oh
just
no, it's fine.
okay. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
first,
I really enjoyed talking to you. Hopefully, we can speak again, or I look forward to seeing more what you have to do in the
awesome.
future.
Alrighty. Well, thank
All right.
you.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.